Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Monday. It is now February 16th, 2026. I'm Brad Panovich, Chief Meteorologist here at WCNC. This is your live weather impact tonight. The impacts we're going to be talking about will definitely be some of the rainfall we had yesterday, which, boy, was that beneficial. That was exactly what we needed. We need a lot more. It did not end the drought. I get a lot of questions about that. One rainy day isn't going to do that. But it was a substantial amount of rain, and it probably knocked about 10% of what we need over the next 30 days. So it definitely was a step in the right direction. Let's start tonight, though, with a view outside. This is our WCNC camera. That's the Billy Graham Parkway. At the bottom of your screen, sunset this evening was 6:08. It was gorgeous. We still got plenty of twilight ongoing out there. Your weather headlines tonight, kind of clear and cold with those clear skies. And with all the moisture on the ground, I do think we're going to see some pretty thick frost tomorrow morning, kind of a really good frost setup tomorrow morning. And then in the afternoon, we're going to see a nice warm-up. Temperatures climbing all the way back into the upper 60s, might even be close to 70. And yes, rain is back in the forecast. Exactly what the doctor ordered. Some high clouds, you can kind of see them off to the northwest of our camera. There's some showing up on the satellite imagery. We've got a big area of high pressure in the middle of the country, and that high is going to be drifting our direction. Now, unlike the last couple of warm-ups we've had, we're going to actually have some clouds and maybe showers around that could help keep temperatures in check. I mean, if we had full sunshine this week, I think we could threaten 80 by the end of the week, but the clouds and rain will likely keep us from there. But as I mentioned, tonight, I certainly do believe we're going to see some heavy frost in quite a few locations with low and mid-30s in the morning. But just like we have all this time of year, the quick turnaround, that diurnal change, temperatures are going to skyrocket back into the upper 60s, close to 70. That southwest wind, we love to call that the blowtorch, and it's living up to its name tomorrow. Now, if you've been sniffling and sneezing, you probably know this already, but the tree pollen is starting to show its head. It's not quite up there where I would say it's bad, but we're starting to sense it. And if you have tree allergies, you're noticing it. Juniper, elm, and alder, kind of the first ones. And you tend to see the pollen come out long before you see buds or even leaves. So before you even notice that, you're going to probably get sniffly and sneezy. And without much rain this week, we'll see it probably go up a little bit before the rain comes in later this week. Now, on average, historically, the tree pollen really starts in early March, which, again, is only like a week and a half away. The last couple of years, we've had record early starts. I think it was last year, the year before, we had a record early start in early February. It was crazy high. This year, it looks like because of our cold snap, we're probably going to start a little closer to average, if not maybe a little bit ahead of schedule. And again, it lasts all the way through April and May. So people always ask, when's it going to end? It's usually got to wait till mid and late May. There's no getting around it. You can't shorten the tree pollen season. You just can lengthen it more than anything. Now, this week is kind of interesting. With the southwest winds, we'll see some clouds, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, that could keep temperatures a little cooler than we expect. But it all depends on where that front sets up. If it sets up a little further north and we get into the sun, we easily could be pushing 80, I think, on Friday. And you'll see that reflected in my 7-day coming up in a minute. But the rain chances, yeah, they're back this week. This is what we need. This is a pattern more indicative of getting out of a drought. You just can't get one rainstorm and then go dry for another week. You kind of need a couple of these every 2 or 3 days this time of year to get you out of a drought. And, you don't want it all at once, so we'll get a couple more dry days for Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday, just a 20% chance. Friday, 40%. Saturday will be interesting. I think we could see some thunderstorms possibly. Talked about how warm it's going to be. If we had sun, we could push 80, but that warm air and humid air could definitely provide some energy for some thunderstorms. You'll see the first part of this system. It's kind of a warm front, and it's kind of a messy look there on Thursday, just isolated showers. But as we get closer to Friday, Saturday, you can kind of see it looks like a cold front right there, and maybe a line of showers and storms sometime late Friday into Saturday. That potentially could help produce some rumbles of thunder. And again, we're kind of in that time of year, late February, early March, especially in a La Nina winter. We tend to get a lot of active severe weather at the end of the winter into early spring. Remember, spring meteorologically starts March 1st, which isn't all that far away. And then it turns much cooler for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. They're signs we could be back below average for high temperatures, which means, temperatures below the average high, which is now in the upper 50s. But the next couple of days just gets warmer and warmer. We'll be near 70 the next couple of days. Thursday, certainly low 70s. And Friday, that's the day if we had full sun. I think we could have hit 80 degrees if we didn't have the clouds. Saturday with some showers and storms, still pretty mild, but then the cool down starts for Sunday into Monday, and that's a sign of some cooler temperatures heading our way. We've seen a little bit of everything over the last 10 days or so. We've seen some cool and warm weather. You could see the really cold stuff about 8 or 9 days ago, and then we had a really nice stretch of weather last week with temperatures jumping up into the low 70s, and then kind of just more typical, I would say, average February weather. Yesterday, the rain all day kept us in the 50s, but it really wasn't that cold because we started the day in the 40s. It just felt a little raw out there. Now, the weekend, like we've seen the last couple of weeks, we definitely have the potential for some rainfall again on the weekend, but it's not going to be the whole weekend. Unlike last weekend or just yesterday, it was more of a Sunday event. I think this could be more of a Saturday and maybe even an early Saturday event, with things clearing out pretty quickly as we go into Sunday. So potentially kind of another 50-50 weekend where half of it's okay and the other half not so great. But temperature-wise, you're looking at 60s on Saturday and probably 50s for Sunday, with temperatures in the morning pretty mild as well. Your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. A couple things to note here. Pretty warm highs, but the lows pretty warm as well. When you got lows in the low to mid 50s, maybe a low of near 60 Friday morning, that's a really warm stretch of weather. And so that's why potentially that Friday, Saturday time frame, depending on the cold front, we could see a scattered shower, thunderstorm, maybe a rumble of thunder. We'll go 10 days out, and we'll see that cool down. That arrives starting Sunday, but early next week definitely looks colder with temperatures below average. The morning lows dip back below freezing, which is now below average. Our average high now 57 and 35. We do have another chance of rain possibly in the next Thursday, so that's an encouraging sign to see that every 2 or 3 days, the potential for at least some rainfall coming back into the picture. So that's what we're looking at right now as we go towards the end of February. I do think we will eventually see another cold snap. I get the question all the time, are we done with winter? Usually not until you get past mid-March. Early March is always a very, very fickle time of year, so we got to watch those first 2 weeks of March for maybe one more blast of, maybe I wouldn't say winter weather, but maybe a scare more than anything. And certainly you can get snow in the mountains all the way into early May. So coming up, Tim Buckley and I will talk about the big storm out west. We'll talk about the rain over the weekend, the drought, and a little bit of Artemis as well. Maybe we'll get into that coming up in 2 minutes, so stick around. Welcome back and good Monday evening, everybody. Tim Buckley joins me from WFMY. And Tim, we had a pretty good weekend with some rainfall around here, and it was a good soaker. We kind of anticipated that being a good soaker, but it was nice to actually get a good rainfall. And it certainly didn't end the drought, but boy, that put a nice dent in it for some areas of the Piedmont.
It almost felt like it should with how long it came down and how heavy it was from time to time. Really pretty impressive, kind of just from start to finish, Brad. You know, I can't remember the last time that I went a whole day without leaving the house, but I just stayed inside the whole time. I didn't go out for anything. And you could just kind of watch it come down like we see here. A lot of puddles out there. The ground's still partially frozen.
Everything Tim just said is exactly what I was doing as I recorded this video. Staying in the house, watching it come down.
Yeah.
You're just in the window watching it rain.
Yeah.
That's all there was to do.
Yep, I definitely had my dad moment there, staring out the window, saying we needed this. You know, it was just, it was definitely, but it really was kind of like I was shocked, Tim. I thought this would be the most we had since we had 1.16 at the end of October, but it ended up being the most rain we saw in Charlotte. Get this, in 164 days. You have to go back to September 4th, the last time we had that much rain in a calendar day, which tells you two things. One, it was a good soaking, but also it has been incredibly dry from last fall through this winter because it really was. You look back at last August into September, we had decent rain, and then all of a sudden it was like a switch. It just shut off, and November here was like bone dry. So it had been a while since we've seen an all-day rain like that.
Very impressive, and that's such a long time, all the way back to September. For us, it was weird. There was this one system in January. For us, it was back on January 10th. We got a big soaking that day, but it barely rained at all in Charlotte. There was not, I think, was that the day maybe of the Panther game, I think?
Yes, it was.
In any case. Yeah, so we had a ton of rain, and we got like 1.6 inches up here, and Charlotte stayed really dry. But in any case, this was a very equal rainfall yesterday across most of the Carolinas. Pretty much everybody got what they needed or what they wanted at least. So check it out.
I think it washed a lot of cars and washed a lot of dirt off the roads. It was kind of nice to get that because boy, it had been a while since we got that kind of setup where we just rained all day. I think that was a thing too. We use this term washout. Like, I think way too often people think washouts happen all the time. It's kind of rare for it to literally rain the entire day without it stopping. And Sunday was one of those days. It really was a washout where from sunrise to sunset, at least during the daylight hours, it never really stopped raining. And so that was kind of nice to see a good soaker. And it really hit the areas that needed the rain the most. Now, I'm sure you got this question a bazillion times. Everyone's like, oh, the drought's over, right? We still need a lot more, Tim. That one-day rain isn't going to end the drought. But, boy, that's the kind of system you need probably every 3 or 4 days over the next couple of weeks to maybe get us out of this thing.
Yeah, and we know that's not going to happen, right? I mean, you're not going to get something like that twice a week, probably not. But it's a start for sure. We'll get some new numbers on this on Thursday to kind of see, what impact it may or may not have had. It's not going to cure everything. But again, hopefully that can be the sign of a bit of a pattern change at least. And what we're definitely seeing right now, as we'll get to more throughout the show, is a pattern change. Because throughout so much of the last couple of months, or last couple of weeks anyway, in the weather, this winter is out east here where we are. It has been really on the cooler side, and out west it's been on the warmer side. Well, now that's changed. And so we're starting to see that weather change happen, and that's kind of what brought us there in the middle. Sometimes you get some of those bigger systems. And right now, this is going to be a warm week for us and a cool and stormy week out west. So the pendulum is swinging a little bit.
Yeah, and that really does bring us to our next topic because we do have these big storm systems affecting the West Coast. And as somebody who's skied out there twice since December, this is kind of nice to see because I was out there in December. There was no snow. I got to Tahoe in January. There was a ton of snow from a 2-week storm just like this, but the whole time I was there, I saw sunny skies every single day. And I think since I left, I don't think there's been a cloud in the sky. And now we look now, and out west, Tim, we've got this massive storm, which is, it's not a little storm. This thing is soaking soaking California and bringing big snow in the mountains. They actually had some delays in Los Angeles because of thunderstorms. They actually had what we call a marginal or low risk for severe weather, something you don't often see out in California. And this is a doozy of a storm, even for them in El Nino winter. They might have a storm like this, but this is a pretty significant storm.
Yeah, it really is. And impressive in a couple of ways. You have the coastal low component here, kind of we've mentioned on the show before, but these atmospheric rivers basically is kind of an impact here where you have all this angled moisture from the Pacific that's just going in there. And for the coast, that means a lot of rainfall. And if you've ever been in Southern California when it rains, it is a sight to behold, and you just see all that water sit on the street and get deeper and deeper, and you are driving in that. And it is not like driving in the rain around here. It is something totally different. But they're getting it there. But then that same moisture flow is getting aimed up the mountains. Yeah. And so in the Sierras, I mean, they're just going to have some epic snowfall this week, which, like you were saying, Brad, they really haven't had all that much of. And that's not just something fun for skiing. It's also a big part of the climate and the water supply out there. Yep. They live in a different world in the West than we do. And it's something that's really important for them is to build up these snowpacks before you get done with winter time.
Yeah, unlike our snow that we had, a couple weeks ago at the end of January, that was a dry, powdery snow. They have a name for the snow out there in the Sierra. They call it Sierra cement, and I've skied in it, and it's called that because it's usually a wet, sticky, very high water content snow. But as you mentioned, Tim, it's really good for the environment out there because that sits in those mountains, and that usually is what the melt of that is what fills up all the reservoirs in California that gets them through the dry season, which happens in the summer and early fall. So this is actually good news for them. And we actually have a report from our good friend Justin Michaels out there from the Weather Channel. Where's he guys in? Mammoth?
He's in Truckee.
Truckee. Oh, Truckee is like one of the coldest, snowiest places. It's right there on, I think it's on 70, as you're coming out of Tahoe. And it's actually where the Sierra Snow Lab is, just off the interstate there. They get epic amounts of snow. He sent this live report to us to look live, not live, but of what was happening out there. And you could just see that this snow was coming down.
The High Sierra expecting a significant snowstorm, and that is good news as we go into the spring and summer months, because it's snow like we're experiencing right now that equals water in people's faucets, and fire hydrants and even hydroelectric dams need the snowpack to melt slowly to fuel all of that. So what are we expecting? We're not talking about a few inches of snow here in the High Sierra. We're talking about feet of snow. In fact, you can only measure it in feet of snow. Here in Truckee, we're talking maybe 2, 3, 4 feet of snow over the next several days. And when you get to higher elevations than here, so right now we're at 5,800 feet, you get over 7,000 feet up at Donner Summit, we're talking about 6 or 7 feet of snow. All of that equaling, again, water for the West. Drastically needed as we go into the spring and summer months. The Rockies are a different story. They're having major water problems there, but at least for the High Sierra, the snowpack is growing. In Truckee, California, Justin Michaels, the Weather Channel.
Yeah, Tim, I was pulling up some of the zone forecasts from out there, and it's always interesting to see the nighttime. And every 12 hours, they have 15 to 20 inches, additional accumulation of 20 to 30 inches, additional accumulation of 15. And it's like, holy cow, that's like a whole storm every 12 hours. It's like insane the amount of snow they're going to get.
I mean, we think back just a couple of weeks ago, parts of our area got 10 to 15 inches of snow. Yeah. It took all day for it to happen. Just think about stacking 4, 5, 6 of those on top of each other. That's nuts. And like you said, this has a ton of water content to it. I was just pulling up, out of curiosity, what does our model show for them? And in the process of that, Brad, you kind of know the deal. I had to find a new color table because mine doesn't work for that kind of snow. But they're basically expecting upwards of 48 to 60 inches at some of those higher peaks. So just crazy stuff. This is only through Wednesday even. So it's not just the Sierras, I guess. Even some of those coastal ranges could get maybe some snowfall as well.
So I pulled up the national blend of models, and this obviously goes out to next Friday, and it shows along 80 there where Justin was. there's one spot 149.6 inches, and Truckee 76 inches, and South Lake Tahoe, where I was in January, 81 inches. I mean, that is just a ton of snow, and it's all of the Sierra, up and down the entire length of California. So just that is a ton of moisture. It's usually all or nothing out there. It's going to be a storm like this, or it's sunny for 2 weeks. That's kind of what the mountains of California are known for, and it does make for some interesting scenes. When I was out in Tahoe a couple years ago, we had just gotten there after one of these events, and I had never seen snow so deep on the side of the road or on people's houses. I'm like, my friend Jen, who works out there, she was like, they have to pretty much every day go clean it off their roof so their roof doesn't collapse, and it's like a daily chore to get it off. So it's amazing to see how they deal with that much snow, Tim. But yeah, the water vapor loop you're showing right now is really impressive. I noticed that too, that low off the coast kind of spinning in. There's a whole nother system, it looks like, coming in behind this. So it could be a couple active days out there.
Yeah, it's not just a one and done kind of a thing. I mean, it's overall just a reloading pattern, so to speak. So where you think of weather like a seesaw a little bit, like we were saying before, one side's up, one side is down. The West is really finally for a change coming in on the downside of things. And they're going to, when you have a big trough like that, you can get these lows to spin up and angle in. And that's when you get the beautiful snowfall and the replenishing snowfall. But, where the people live down in the coast, you're going to have some pain with this, whether it be from flight delays or flooding or mudslides or whatever. I haven't heard too much about that yet, but it doesn't take too many rounds of rain to cause those kind of problems. Yeah,
because the climate's just so different down there in Southern California, especially where they can't handle the runoff. It just, everything goes off. There's nothing to soak it up. Now, it's interesting. Justin mentioned Colorado, and most of the West has been really like in a snow drought. Some of the resorts, the number of ski resorts that I saw that were under 100 inches still for the season blows my mind, because some of these places average 400, 500, 600 inches in a winter. And to be here now past President's Day, which is a huge ski weekend, and some places still haven't gotten to 100 inches, really tells you how dry it's been out there. But maybe this is the pattern change. Like you said, Tim, I think we're going to be warmer, maybe a little wetter here in the east, and they're getting cooler and wetter. So it definitely feels like things are changing a little bit in the overall pattern. It's been such a crazy winter for a La Nina. It almost feels like an El Nino type winter. But there are signs we're transitioning to a neutral phase this summer. Maybe by next fall we'll be in an El Nino. So maybe it's the transition of those teleconnections that are causing this. But yeah, California, they needed the rain. They don't need it all at once. It's like us. We don't like seeing it all come. We don't need a drought buster like this just all come all of a sudden and then deck down. But speaking of flooding, what I did want to mention, because Governor Stein was in Asheville today, and he was working on, I think this project is similar to what we have here in Mecklenburg County, a resiliency project for flash flooding and flooding in general. And he talked to our sister station out there, WLOS, our good friend Jason Boyer works over there, talking about what they're going to do in the Asheville area to kind of help either buy up property that normally floods or other mitigating factors. And I thought the governor had some good points about, like, it's going to flood again, and so they're trying to be proactive. Here was him talking about this project today.
The money is going to support 8 projects along the French Broad River. Today's nearly $6 million will help local governments create new floodwater storage. We just turned, how much landfills?
23,000 cubic yards.
23,000 cubic yards of land is being excavated, so that when there is a flood, that water now has somewhere to go, and that will reduce the amount of flooding impacts downriver and Marshall and beyond.
Yeah, so really good to see that. I think North Carolina is really good at this, Tim, of trying to mitigate these things, storing water. We know flooding's going to happen. Like, I remember the former FEMA director used to tell you have to worry about flooding. Anywhere it rains, you have to worry about it flooding. And I thought it was a good point, but we are definitely taking action to kind of combat that. And it's good to see that, especially along the French Broad River Valley, which is a very flash flood and flood prone area already.
It is, and we think about the big storms, we think about the hurricanes and hurricane season, and it's important to be ready for those. But we don't often think about, a lot of times, the flash flooding that we see, especially in cities. it can just be a random summer day and you get a storm that sits on you and it dumps 5 inches of rain in a couple hours. I know Charlotte saw that, last summer at one point.
Yep.
We certainly had it in the Greensboro area, different points, different days. You can just kind of get these events that they catch you off guard. You can't really prepare for them on a day-to-day basis. So it's better to have the infrastructure a little bit more resilient, and certainly a lot of work to be done after Helene. And even though it was such a disaster, you learn a lot from these storms and from these systems as you rebuild.
Yeah, and it's good to see that happening. We know flooding's going to happen. Slowing that water down, retaining it, retention ponds for development, those are huge help, especially in an urban environment, like you said, Tim, because we have so much impervious surface. The water just runs off so quickly. You got to slow it down somehow, and so you can do that with drainage systems and retention ponds. So we take a live view from Asheville there, beautiful view, downtown Asheville. It's just a gorgeous city. I mean, it's like picturesque there. I noticed you noticed this today, Tim. I've started to notice this. Our good old friend tree pollen starting to show back up, and it's kind of crazy because it's kind of on schedule. I mean, last year it wasn't too early, but I think it was 2 years ago we had a record early start. It was like early February. We were getting high pollen levels already. The cold snap certainly helped, but this is kind of on schedule, right? We're starting to see the pollen creep up, and usually by early March, we're fully into it. And if you're an allergy sufferer, I don't have to tell you this, it's starting to creep up. And if you haven't, gotten your treatments, your shots, or your medication, might be time to start thinking about that, right, Tim?
I think the snow and ice and cold air might have caused us to forget about it. Or, to me, I actually was hoping, maybe it would be a little delayed. And it's certainly not as early as the last couple of years have been. But it looks like we're starting to get into it now where, we've got some local folks up here in Forsyth County, and they take samples every day. They started doing it for the first time of the year last week, and they've already observed a high pollen day once last week, and they're forecasting that for us by Wednesday, Thursday of this week. Because, when you think about what makes a pollinated day, usually the nicer the weather is, the worse the pollen is. So sunshine can do it, warmth can do it, a breeze can do it. We're going to have some warmth and some wind throughout the week. Maybe not a lot of sunshine, but that stuff is changing out there. Even when you can't see the trees waking up, they're waking up, and they're putting that stuff out there.
I'll tell you, Tim, I got my delivery of the annual meds yesterday because I was like, oh, here it comes. Ooh. The trees is what gets me.
Yeah, I think for most people, James, the tree is probably the most common pollen source. We deal with the grass in the summertime, the ragweed in the fall, but it's that classic tree pollen that it'll get you. Even if the car isn't turning yellow yet, that pollen will be in the air. We'll have more updates on that as we go into the next couple of days. This has been your live weather impact for Monday. We'll be back here again tomorrow.